Hello fellow blocks cardigans, this is Forrest Ballin, and welcome to BC Reviews, a series where I review blocks cards groups, and we'll be starting with the Strife's Arsenal groups. This is highly experimental, so don't expect quality.
What the fuck is a kilometer?
Redcliffs are the red group of Strife's Arsenal, and are heavily aggro focused. They buff up their fighters to ludicrous levels, then charge you down with their insane stats. However, they are not that strong if you play strategically or use either stall or bread tools, and cards like Unworld or Steve the Explorer Man will wreck their day. Going into their cards, going from common to legendary, and skipping over adept, because it has no effects, we'll start with Redcliff Messenger. Redcliff Messenger has an incredibly simple cost and an incredibly simple effect, being a 150 power gain on a target fighter for only one red stud. Its stats are very low, and it isn't suited for combat right off the summon, unlike other Redcliff fighters. It's still a Redcliff regardless and can be affected by the group's power buffs, so you should go for these, if you can, to stop them from ramping up. Next, we have Redcliff Archer, one of Redcliff's two only sources of effect damage. It costs a colorless and 2 red, and deals 150 damage to a target enemy fighter, if the first fighter you cast in a turn is a Redcliff. These have the weakest base power of all Redcliff fighters, and you should kill them, not only to stop the effect damage, but also to stop them from ramping up. Rounding out the common Redcliff cards, we have Redcliff Mauler, which costs 1 colorless and 3 red. This is the first, and cheapest, max buff that Redcliffs have, giving all allied Redcliffs 100 health and power on cast. They don't have any tricky effects besides that, so you should probably focus on the archers more. Starting out the uncommon Redcliff cards, we have Redcliff Enforcer. For the love of all that is holy, save these motherfuckers for last. They are beefy in terms of base stats, sure, with 500 health and power, but they give all allied Redcliffs 400 health and power on death, which can turn the tides hard, if you don't have a counter. If they are the only card on their side when it dies, it just draws a card, which is a lot more manageable. If you can help it, kill these guys last. Going into the two actions this group has, we have Redcliff Rise, which gives all Redcliff cards 600 power, or summons an Enforcer, if there are no cards on your field. This can turn your fighters into massive beatsticks, which can help overwhelm your opponent's side. Next up, we have Redcliff Decimate, which can only be cast if you have one fighter on the field, and that fighter is a Redcliff. That fighter gains 800 health and power, allowing for a last stand. Now we have Redcliff Elite Commander, Redcliff's only rare fighter. On cast, if you have 1500 or more power among your fighters, it deals 300 damage to a target fighter. It's got some beefy base stats, being 500 health and power, just like an Enforcer, but unlike an Enforcer, due to its base stats, this should be a high priority. Finally, we have Redcliff King Richard, the group's legendary. It has haste, if you have another Redcliff on the field, and gives you a common or uncommon Redcliff card when it attacks. This is one of the highest priority cards to kill when it comes out, because as long as it's alive, your opponent has technically infinite board value and can keep using maulers and messengers to keep Richard alive. Now, to begin with, how you can play this group well, basically any max buff, especially red, whether it be health or power, will help you empower your fighters a lot, with me recommending cards such as Kit of Deceit. Additionally, splashing blue to use the Dark Book of Spells from Ancient Stirrings with either of the two actions will double their buffs, allowing you to go ham with plus 1200 power on Rise and plus 1600 health and power on Decimate. Splashing green is also a decent option, as cards like Alpha Brick's Presence will let you double up on using your cards on cast effects. And with that, we end our first group review. I hope you learned something from this.